So, yeah. So I'm going to go back a few lines just from the previous starting point. So we said time of the Asni Bezdin, but hello Asni Bezdin lo. The reason why the Kohanim could put salt on their katas burgers is because there's a stipulation of the court that allowed them to do that. If not for the stipulation, they would not be able to put the salt on their communal on their sacrificial food that they're consuming. So now we're going to ask a rebuttal. Hashtali srol yahavinon. We let a non-Kohen salt, so the Kohanim lo yavinon, only because of the stipulation from the court. You allow the Kohanim to use the salt to put on their put on the food, on the sacrificial food. I'll show you that by Yisrael we allow them to do that. If we allow a Yisrael to do that, for sure, a Kohen should be allowed to do that. So now we're gonna go through a long way to show you that a Yisrael is able to use the salt. And once we showed you that, so then of course a Kohen can use it, and therefore, what do you need this stipulation for? So, Ditanya says the Brisa Yachal Omer Harei Alai Mincha Yavi Melech Mikol Beso. The question in this Brisa is, when you say I'm going to bring a mincha offering, from where are you getting your salt? Communal funds or private funds? So you would have thought maybe Yavi Melech Mikol Beso, bring salt from your house, Kederek Shemevi Levuna, just like you have to bring the frankincense from your house, Mikol Beso. Vidinhu, that's logical. Nemra Hevi Mincha Behevi Melech, Nemra Hevi Mincha Behevi Levuna. Bring a mincha, bring salt. Bring a mincha, bring frankincense. Just like frankincense you bring from your house, so do the salt you bring from your house. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, or go down the other path. Namar hevi mincha behevi malach. Whenever hevi mincha behevi eitzim, it says bring a mincha and bring salt, and it says bring a mincha and bring wood. Well, ma eitzim, where do you get the wood from? That's from communal funds, not from private funds. So af melach mishal tzibor, so to salt, it comes from communal funds. Okay, so which one is it? Is salt similar to frankincense? Is salt similar to wood? Mira le midoime, who is it similar to? Don and davar hanoeg b'chol hazvachim. Midavar hanoeg b'chol hazvachim, that we compare something which applies to all sacrifices, like wood, and not frankincense. Midavar hanoeg b'chol hazvachim, like salt. Alto kiach levona, frankincense, it's not brought with all the sacrifices. So therefore we should compare salt to the wood, and it should come from the communal funds. Okay. Oh, I mean, we go the other way. The frankincense is more similar to the salt because they're both in one vessel. So maybe learn out things that are more similar because they're in one vessel from wood, which is not in one vessel with the salt. And therefore you'd have to bring the salt from your private funds. Okay. Yeah. So Talmud Lomar says, the Bryce ends off saying, Bris Melach Olamhu, that you have to bring, it's an eternal covenant made with the salt. Ula Halan hu Omer Me'ez B'nei Yisrael Bris Olam. And later on, we have a similar language by the bread. It says, from amongst the children of Israel, Bris Olam, an eternal covenant. Mala Holland over there, talking about the bread, Lechem Apanim, it's Mishel Tzibor. That's brought from communal funds. Afkan, Mishel Tzibor. So to here, the salt is going to be brought from the communal funds. Now, the salt will be brought from the communal funds. So, 1 second. Yeah. So now, Amalei of Mordechai the Rav Ashi, Hachi Kamar Rav Shisha Breder Ravidi. So I just proved to you that salt comes from the communal fund. So if it comes from the communal funds, and the Yisrael's allowed to use it, so for sure the Kohanim should be allowed to use it also. To that, Rav Mordechai says, Rav Ashi, that Rav Shisha, son of Rav Idi, said that we need this novelty, that the Kohanim could use the salt. We need it for the opinion of Ben Bukhri. For Ben Bukhri, there's going to be a novelty that the Kohanim can use the salt. Now we're going to see that we know that there's something called a half a shekel, machzis a shekel, coming up soon. So in the month of Adar. So were the Kohanim obligated in the machzis a shekel? People would donate half a shekel, and it'd be used for a lot of communal funding. So Ben Bukhri says as follows: the Mishnah in Shkolim, right in the beginning. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, or in the middle. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, hey Ben Bukhri be Yavna. Ben Bukhri said, in Yavna kol kohen sheshokel eino choteh. Any kohen who will give a half a shekel is not a sinner. So that implies that he's not obligated to do that. If he was obligated to give a half shekel, you wouldn't say that if he gives, he's not a sinner. You would say he has to give. So now, why would you say a kohen is not included in the half shekel? So Rashi explains that the Gemara explains in Shkolim that it's only for people that are counted. Shevet Levi wasn't counted. You know, the Kohanim came from Levi, so they're not counted. They're not chayiv in the half a shekel. Now, this opinion holds, though, even though they're not obligated to bring a half a shekel, you could have thought, and we'll see some do say this, you could have thought that if you're going to bring a half a shekel, so that's like bringing non-sanctified things into the courtyard, into the temple courtyard, which is a violation. And that's going to be two opinions. But this opinion holds, if you bring it, you're not considered a sinner. Okay, fine. So that's the first opinion. Amar lo Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Lo. Kiela kol kohen she'eino shokel choteh. Anybody who doesn't give a half a shekel, any kohen who doesn't give a half a shekel is a sinner. They have to give. Kohanim have to give half a shekel. Ela shekohanim dorshin mikra zela atzman. So 1 second. So any kohen who doesn't give a half a shekel is going to be a sinner. He's liable at half a shekel. Now, why is he liable? Rashi explains also. It says ze yitnu. Ze, the Gemara learns out, is gematria of 12. 7 and 5 is 12. To teach you that the 12 tribes have to give half a shekel. Right? So there's a yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so you have to give half a shekel. So the pasuk that we used, that the first opinion said excludes Levi, says kol ha'over ala pekudim, anybody who passes over the ones that are counted. So Levi's not counted. This opinion, though, it's interesting, says that verse kol ha'over is referring to anybody who passed over the Red Sea, the Yam Suf. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, that's expression. Okay. Either way, two opinions if a kohen has to give a half a shekel or not. Fine. Now, Ella Kohanim Dorshim Mikras Alatzim. The Kohanim interpret this verse for themselves. It's the Kol Minchas Kohen. So now they don't have to give a half a shekel. Now, why would you have thought that they can't use the salt? So the Kohanim made the following conclusion. It says Kol Minchas Kohen Kollel Tiyah Lo Sochel. Any mincha of a kohen gets fully consumed. Now we have 3 communal mincha offerings: Hova Omer, the one you bring on the second day of Pesach, Shtei Lechem, every week you bring the bread, the Shavuos bread, and Lechem upon him. So that's Shalonuhi. So Hayach Ne'acholim, that goes to us. Those come from communal funds, and we're able to eat them. Now the other verse says any mincha of a kohen, if I were to purchase it myself, it would have to be fully consumed. So therefore they don't contribute. Since they don't contribute to the communal funds, they're able to eat it. Now, Now here comes the question, I think. Ula ben Bukhri, Kevin de Lechatchila lo mechayiv, la suye. No, something else. Yeah, that's something else. So now, what do we see from here? We see from here that the Kohanim, we're trying to prove that what is the novelty of the Kohanim being able to use the salt? If the regular Yisrael partakes in the communal offerings, the Kohen should also. So we're proving that the Kohanim thought that since they don't give a half a shekel, therefore they're able to partake in the communal offerings, the ones that go to themselves. Their own mincha offering has to be fully consumed. So the salt that comes from a communal fund, they would have thought they don't have any ability to use it. To that we say, no, there's a novelty that they're able to use the salt for their sacrificial food. They would have thought that they do not get to use the salt because for their own personal offering, because their own personal offering gets fully consumed. I think there was a mistake, meaning they made a mistake, meaning only their private mincha really gets consumed, but not a communal mincha. A communal mincha does not get consumed, and therefore we allow them. So we tell them no, that we made a stipulation that you're allowed to use the salt even for from the food that you're consuming. Yeah, is that right? What is that? So let's see. Maybe it's still in the middle of a question. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's going to be parenthetical right now. I think we're that's why I got stopped. I think the next part is parenthetical, and then we're going to go back to our question. So let's see. Just parenthetically, will it ben Bukhri, Kevin lechatchila v'mechayil lesuye ki ma'isi nami chotehu the kamayel chum lazara. According to ben Bukhri, since you're not supposed to bring a half a shekel, if you do bring it, that's like bringing non-sacrificial food into the temple, and that's a prohibition. So bringing your half a shekel, if you're not obligated to bring it, is going to be considered chulin liazara, which is a mundane food in the courtyard, the maisi. The kamayel chum lazara. The maisi umasr lahon. The ma'al chum lazara. Or it's one run.
Presumes that they're planning to bring up shekel and whole lot to give them over to the congregation.
Now we're going back to ask the question.
Shekel it was given to the congregation.
Right. So, 1 second. Right. Meaning Rabbi Yehuda said for Ben Bukhri that any coin that gives a shekel is not a sinner. So now we're asking why not? It's like bringing chul lazar. It's like bringing it's mundane food into the courtyard. It should be a prohibition. We said no. Since at the end of the day you're going to be giving it to the congregation, it's not considered like a chul lazar. Now, you would have thought next page the islahu lishka lekohanim the leislu lishka lo zachilu rachmana. You would have thought that there's a special chamber where they keep the salt, and that's only for the Israelim, because they're the ones that are obligated to give the half a shekel, and that half a shekel is going to go partially to the salt fund, and therefore you would have thought that the only ones that merit to use the salt are the ones that are obligated to contribute to the salt fund, and the Kohanim that are not obligated to contribute to the salt fund do not get a share of the salt. Kamashlam, we're teaching you that no. According to Ben Bukhri, there's a novelty that the Kohanim can still use the salt for their when they consume the food. So when they consume the food, they could still use the salt, and that's really a novelty because you would have thought that they have no share in the salt because they don't have to bring a half a shekel. So we teach you that no, they'll still get a share in the salt, even though they don't have to bring the half a shekel. Okay. Now, in the middle of that conversation, we brought up the wood. And we said it was obvious that the wood came from communal funds. The agent of the Mishal Tzibor, Minolan, how do you know that wood is for sure a communal obligation? How do you know that? How do you know that wood's a communal obligation? So we say, Tanya says in the Brisa, Yachal Omer Harei Alai Ola, you have the eitzim mitos base. So you would have thought someone who says, I'm going to bring an Ola, he has to bring wood from his house, Kiderek Shemevi in the Sacha mitos base. So just like he brings libations from his house. Talmud Lomer Ala Eitzim Asher Ala Eish, Asher Ala Mizbeach. We compare the wood that's on the fire, on the altar. We compare the wood to the altar. Amnam Mizbeach Mishal Tzibur. The altar itself comes from, we'll see how we know this, but it comes from communal funds. Af Eitzim the Eish, the wood, the fire. That's all going to come. Mishal Tzibur Divrei Rabbi Lazar Darav Shimon, as the Rabbi Lazar son of Rabbi Shimon says. However, Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua Omer, Ma Mizbeach, another verse, another source that the wood comes from communal funds. Ma Mizbeach Shalom Shtamish Bo Hedyot. Just like the Mizbeach has to be something which a commoner never used. You can't bring used material for the altar. It's got to be new. So too, Af Eitzim the Eish Shalom Shtamish Bo Hedyot. So too, the wood, the fire, the things that you're going to use to burn the sacrifices has to be things that a commoner never used. Obviously, you can't go bring the ones from your house. Now, Mai Beinayu, what's the difference between them? Ike Beinayu, Chadati ve'atiki. So, according to Lazar ben Shemua, it sounds like if you have new wood that has never been used before, even from your house, you can bring it. You just can't bring old wood. According to the first opinion, we don't care if it's new or old, it can't be from your house. So, new wood is a difference between them. New wood is a requirement for Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua. It's not a requirement for Rabbi Lazar ben Rabbi Shimon. But they're both going to agree that you cannot bring it from your house. Yeah. Yeah. Says that the Gemara, really, you can't use old things for the altar. When David Melech was buying for the Beis Hamikdash, so it says Vayomer Arvana El David. I think he was buying from Arvana. He was the seller. Vayomer Arvana El David. Yikach v'yala donei melech hatov be'einav. Take it or good in your eyes. Ra haboker le'ola v'hamorigim v'kli haboker le'etzim. So he's telling him all this here. Take all this material. We'll see what the morigim is, some kind of a threshing utensil. But take these vessels. So it sounds like take these vessels. We assume they're already used. No, we actually say that they're new vessels. Now, one of these vessels is called the morigim. What in the world are the morigim? Ma'i morigim. Amar Ula. It's a mitishel tarbel. It's a bed of tarbel. Great. What's my mitishel tarbel? What's mitishel tarbel? Amar Bihuda. Iza de Korkasa. That we know, of course. What an Iza de Korkasa is, the Dashubeh. So what's an Iza de Korkasa? So Iza de Korkasa is a goat-shaped weight placed on a spike board. Perfect. Kedai Shidisha that they put on the grain, and they would tie the oxen onto it, and they would take it, and it would go, and it would thresh the ground. Yeah. So Amar Rav Yosef. Okay. So now Amar Rav Yosef, Ma'ikra. How do you know that these morigin, these heavy weights placed on spikes, are for threshing? Maybe they're for board meetings. I don't know what they're for. Yeah, it gets rough. Ma'ikra, Hineshim. It says the verse. That's a good idea. It says in Yeshaya, it says Hine Samtich Lemoreg Charutz Chadash. It says he placed Lemoreg Charutz Chadash Bal Pipios Tidosh Harim. You see, it says it talks about this moreg, and you use it to thresh. Yeah, to thresh well. Okay, fine. So what is that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about different flour offerings mixed together. Now, different flour offerings have had a different consistency of how much oil was put in. So if you required, let's say, 3 measurements of oil, and you got mixed in with another flour offering, which requires less oil, what's going to happen? Some of the 3 measurements is going to go into the 1 measurement. Some of the 1 measurement might go into your measurement, but you could easily come out with less than 3 in one offering and more than 1 in another offering. So this is going to be the extremely famous, well-known, or very, I don't know, very foundational source of do things of the same species nullify each other, right? So you have kosher meat and non-kosher meat, right? Those are the same species. They're both meat. Do they nullify each other? Yes or no? Whenever you have two things of the same species, do they nullify each other? Yes or no? So the source is from here. Nis'ariv kumtza bekometz chaverta. You have kometz, which is mixed in kometz chaverta, in a flour offering of its friend, b'minchas kohanim, or b'minchas kohen Mashiach, b'minchas nisachim sheira. If it's mixed with a flour offering of a kohen Mashiach, meaning the anointed kohen brought a korban every day called the minchas chavitin. If it gets mixed in with that, or with a minchas nisachim, with a libation flour offering, or the mincha of the kohanim that they have to bring, it's going to be kshera. That is the first opinion. Rabbi Yehuda, maybe the more novel opinion, Omer, the minchas kohen Mashiach, the minchas nisachim psula. 2 out of the 3 that we just mentioned, it's going to be invalid. Why? Shezu bli lasa ava, vizu bli lasa raka. Because these sacrifices have different consistencies. Vehein bolaos zumizu, and they get mixed one from another. So the mincha of a regular, a Jew wants to offer up a flour offering as a volunteer offering, so that's very thick, because that's only 1 lug to 1 isaron, 1 lug of oil to 1 isaron of flour. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. However, minchas kohen Mashiach, the daily mincha of a kohen, of the kohen gadol, and the minchas nesachim, and the libation flour offering, that is a blilasa raka. That's a much thinner. It's much thinner texture, because that's 3 lugan of oil to 1 measurement of flour. So now they're going to get mixed from each other. So you're going to have, one's going to have too much oil. The 1-to-1 ratio now has more than 1-to-1 ratio. That we saw on page 11 is an invalidation. And the other offering that's supposed to have 3 is going to be lacking some oil. And that is also going to be an invalidation. Yeah, okay. So okay, fine. So now, says the Gemara, Tanan Hassam, this is really the source of these opinions of do things of the same species nullify each other. So on Yom, not yet, sorry. Tanan Hassam, the Mishnah says in Zvachim and in Chulin, Dam Shinas Arev, B'may, Im Yesh Bo Maris Dam, Kosher. The rule is when you have blood that's mixed with water, is it blood or is it water? How do you know which one it is? You have blood mixed with water and it looks red to you or something like that. So can you still bring that blood up on the altar? Yes or no? So im yesh maris dam, if it still looks like blood, kosher. It's still valid to be brought up on the altar. Mis'arev biyayin, if it gets mixed with wine, now you're really stuck. You have blood mixed with wine, they're both red. Now what do you do? So interesting, novel way of looking at it is you look at the wine as if it was water. You see how much is there, and you'll determine if this were water and it would still remain red, it'll be valid. If this were water and it really wouldn't be red anymore, then it's going to be invalid. That's called a rowan. That's called the concept of seeing. Didn't we have this in Zvachim? Yeah, we had this in Zvachim. Rowan oso kilu humayim. We view it like it's water. Okay, what if the blood got mixed up with other blood? Mis'areh b'dam behema o b'dam chaya, with a domesticated animal of blood or with a wild animal of blood. So what do you do? So we say rowan oso kilu humayim. You view it as if it's water, meaning, and you determine how much blood of the animals are here, how much blood of the sacrifice is here. If this were water, would it nullify the blood and it wouldn't be red anymore? Then it's invalid. If it still would have been red, then it's valid. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and here's the source. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ein dam mevatel dam. Blood cannot nullify blood. So now, he holds blood can't nullify blood. Blood is blood for the sacrifice, blood of an animal. They're both categorically considered blood. One species cannot nullify its friend from the same species. Cannot be. The first opinion said it could be. It could be. Blood could nullify blood. Look at the wine and see if it were water, what would happen? So now, We have a debate here. Can one species nullify its own species from the same category? Yes or no? Where are they coming from? Interestingly enough, it's not a logical debate per se. They're both interpreting the verse. Well, at least according to Rabbi Yehuda, we'll see. It's not so logical, but Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ein dam atal dam. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, V'shneihem, they both are coming from one pasuk. V'shneihem mikra echadash. They both interpret one verse. Now, on Yom Kippur, we have two offerings brought inside the Holy of Holies. Inside the kosher kedashim, we have inside the holy area, we have the bull and the he-goat. After they're both brought, that their blood is mixed together. Now, when their blood is mixed together, the Torah still refers to their blood as the blood of the bull and the blood of the he-goat. Now, there's way more blood of the bull than there is the blood of the he-goat, and yet the Torah still calls it the blood of the he-goat. Now, why would it do that? If you mix two of the blood together, one from a bull, one from a he-goat, and there's much more blood of the bull, so it should nullify the blood of the he-goat, and the Torah should just call it the blood of the bull. But that's not what happens. So the lochak midama par midama seir, we call it the blood of the he-goat. Hadavar yadua, everybody knows shedama shel par maruba midama shel seir, that the blood of the bull is much more than the blood of the he-goat, and yet we still call the blood of the he-goat. And even though it's mixed in its own species, what do you see? Blood cannot nullify blood. One species cannot nullify another species. Cannot nullify its species. So Rabbanan say next page. Mikan le'olin she'ein mevatlin zed zeh. Say the Rabbanan. No, there's a special rule by sacrifices that they won't nullify. That they won't nullify each other. Meaning, everyone agrees this verse is teaching you that when two things of the same kind are mixed together, they do not nullify each other. The question is it limited to where it's stated by sacrifices, or do you expand? Do you derive a rule from here and apply it to all areas of Jewish law? So Rabbanan say it's only Olin, and we'll see why they say this, but it only applies to sacrifice. It doesn't apply anywhere else. That's one opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Mikan, from here you learn Lemin Bemino She'eno Batal. From here you know the general principle that one species does not nullify another species. Rashi actually paskins in halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. We don't go like that, but there might be a few others also that and the sources from here that Lemin Bemino She'eno Batal. So yeah. So now, why Rabbanan, the rabbis hold what Mikan Olim Shem Matan Zed Zed? Maybe they should agree to Rabbi Yehuda, but Dilma Mishum Demin B'Mino who? How do the rabbis know it's only by sacrifices? Maybe it's because of a general principle that two things of the same kind don't nullify each other. The Dilma Mishum Demin B'Mino who? Well, says the Gemara, a very logical thing. If you want to teach me a general principle, then teach me a general principle. You taught it in the section of sacrifices, it's going to be limited to where it's taught. So, it's only because it's a sacrifice. Vidilma, maybe you need both. Maybe according to the Rabbanan, you need both. Vidilma adika min vi'olin. You need it to be the same species, and you need it to be to go on the altar. Only when you have both of these do we say that it's not going to nullify each other. Meaning, why is it only a rule that the Olin are not Mabafim Zed? Maybe it's both. Maybe you can learn both from here. That things of the same species and things of Olin don't nullify each other. So it says the Gemara kasha. Okay, that's a kasha, not a knockout, but that's a kasha. Meaning what? From here you should derive both principles.
No, I think it's
right. Meaning when you see this part of the Torah that they're not nullifying each other, so why? So they said because they're sacrificial offerings. That's why. they're brought up on the altar, they can't nullify each other. Says more, maybe it's because they're the same species and they're brought up on the altar. You know what? For two reasons they can't be nullified.
It's just saying, you give me one logic.
Yeah. So what's the other logic?
No. I mean, this is the one logic is straight.
Okay.
And the other logic is what's the okay. So
and if they would have done that, then you could derive that in general we see from here the concept of two of the same species can't be nullified. Meaning what? You can really learn both things from here. The reason why they're not nullified is because they're the same species and because they're sacrificed up on the altar. But yeah, the rabbis don't say that. All they say it's because it's brought up on the altar, but not because it's the same species. So why they do that is a difficulty. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda holds. From here you see a general principle that two of the same species do not nullify each other. The Dilma Mishum the Olden who say the same thing for Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe it's because it's brought up on the altar. Brought up on the altar is unique. Says Rabbi Yehuda, if you want to teach me things that are brought up on the altar are not nullified, well, okay, now it's going to make more sense. We have same species and different species, right? You have blood and blood, but you can have blood and salt, blood and flour, things like that. If you want to teach me the principle that it's only sacrificial things don't nullify each other, where does that apply? If you want to teach you this general rule will tell you even things that are different species also can't nullify each other. There's a general rule. Things that are brought up on the altar cannot nullify each other. So says Rabbi Yehuda, if you want to teach me that rule, you should have taught it by the bigger novelty. What would be the bigger novelty? If two things of different species, which are more likely to nullify each other, still they don't nullify each other, I'll for sure know things of the same species don't nullify each other. But the fact that I taught it only by things of the same species shows me that it's not unique to sacrifices, rather it's unique to it being the same species. That's Rabbi Yehuda's logic. Iyashmin and Olin. So then, min b'she'eno minu kidika amris. Hashta dashminan bin mino mishum de min b'minohu. It's because it's specifically its own species, and not because it's unique to things that are brought up on the altar. Now, we ask from Rabbi Yehuda, "V'dilma ad ika min b'mino ve'olin." According to Rabbi Yehuda, maybe there are really two reasons why it won't be nullified here. One is because it's going to be the same species, but it's also because it's brought up on the altar. So maybe it's only because it's min b'mino and because it's brought up on the altar. But who says if it was just min b'mino anywhere else that would apply? That we say kasha. You're right. It's a difficulty. It's a difficulty on Rabbi Yehuda. So difficulty each way you go. That they still stand with their opinion. Okay, so now that we have these opinions down, back to our Mishnah for a second. Tanan Rabbi Yehuda Omer ben Minchas Kol Minchas Mashiach u'Minchas Nesachim. No, Minchas Kol Mashiach u'Minchas Nesachim. Yeah, only two out of the three our Mishnah mentioned, according to Rabbi Yehuda, are going to be invalid if they're mixed together with a regular mincha. Why? Shezu bli lasa'ava v'zu bli lasa'raka v'hein bo la'os zu mizu, and they are absorbed one from another. Says the Gemara, v'chi bo la'os zu mizu. So what? According to Rabbi Yehuda, the fact that they are absorbed one another. So what? So have min b'minohu. They're things of the same species, and Rabbi Yehuda holds things of the same species are not nullified. So now Amar Rava, just saw this last night, yesterday. So in Kollel, interesting concept. Amar Rava holds that Rabbi Yehuda will agree that like this. It sounds complicated, but it's not. So kol shehu min b'mino. Whenever you have two things of the same species, so in this case, it's oil and oil, right? You have 3 lug of oil of one sacrifice. You have 1 lug of oil from another sacrifice, right? And these two are they're in a fight. Because if they mix together, you're going to take away from the 3, you're going to add to the 1, it's going to nullify the offering. So you have 2 of the same species that are fighting with each other, the 2 oils. Then you have the davar acher, something which is not its species, such as the flour. So now, when you have 2 things of the same species and 1 thing of another species, now really, the flour and the 3 lug of oil could nullify the other one. Those two together can nullify the other one. So each one has more, and they could nullify and nullify the third thing. When you have such a situation, what you could do is like this. How do you view it? You could view it solik es mino kimisha eno. You could remove. You can view it as if the oil of the mincha offering that you're offering is not there, and all you have left is the flour. And now the flour is much more than the oil, and it will go and nullify the oil. So you have more. A regular offering has, it's very thick. Why? Because a 1-to-1 ratio. So you're going to, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So what do? You view the oil of a regular mincha offering like it's not there. And then what are you left with? Just the oil of the other offering, the minchas kohanim, or the minchas kohen Mashiach, or the minchas pesachim. You're left with the 3 lug of oil against the flour. So there we say, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol shu min domino v'davar acher, silik es mino kimisha eno. Take away the oil as if it's not there of the regular mincha offering. Now v'she'eno mino rabba alav levatlo. So now you have a fight between two things of different species. So our question was, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when 2 oils mixed together, who cares? You hold that 2 things of the same species don't nullify each other. So why is it invalid? The answer is that the way he's going to view it is not that the oils are fighting together, that the oil and the flour are fighting together. The 3 lug of oil against the flour are fighting together. That's a fight. So that is things of different species. Not everyone agrees to. Things of different species for sure can nullify each other. So that's how Rabbi Yehuda is going to view it, and therefore he's going to say it's invalid because one offering nullifies the other offering, and now it's going to take away from it, and it's going to invalidate it.
That's right.
It is. Yeah, it is similar. Yeah. It's interesting because this logic is not unique to Rabbi Yehuda. We're using it from Yehuda, but it's in a case that would apply to the Rabbanon. So the Rashba that's brought down in Halacha says the same kind of logic, just in the Rabbanon's world. When you have 3 things, you could also view one of them as if it's not there, and then have the other one nullify the other one, and it's going to even I think it's even used as a leniency sometimes. So yeah. Okay. Itmar, it says like this. Itmar, kometz the minchas chote. So now you have a mincha of a sinner which does not have oil. But now you poured oil on it. You took off kmitza and you poured oil on it. So Rabbi Yochanan Omer Pasal. Rabbi Yochanan says invalid. Can't have oil on it. Reish Lakish Amar, no problem. Not only is it fine, you actually put oil on it. You actually mix the kometz in the leftovers of the oil, and then you bring it up as a sacrifice. Well, obviously, what does that mean? It says explicitly in the Torah, Lo yasim aleha shemen, lo yitin aleha levona. You cannot put oil on this offering. So we say, what it just means is, Hahush lo yikbal shemen ke chevruseha. That we just don't put as much oil as its friend, meaning you still put a little oil, you put a little of the remaining oil on it, just not as much measurement as the other flour offerings get. So, Eisei Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan is going to ask a question on Reish Lakish that we have a Charav Shinas Ari V'Bolel. You have a dry mincha offering, so therefore there's no oil there, and it gets mixed together V'Bolel with a mincha offering that is bolel, that's mixed together, meaning the flour is mixed with the oil. So yakir. The first opinion says you could bring it up because Rashi explains the rabbis hold Olin ein mevatlin zedzeh. There's a principle: things brought up on the altar don't nullify each other, even if it's different species. It doesn't matter. It's brought up on the altar; it doesn't nullify each other, as we see from the blood of Yom Kippur, like we had a few minutes ago. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yakriv. Rabbi Yehuda says you cannot bring it. Yeah, but according to Rabbi Yehuda says you cannot bring it. So now Are we not talking about Ma'ilav Komates the Minchas Chota? Which dry flour offering are we talking about? Are we not talking about a dry mincha offering, the Arei the Komates the Minchas Nadava, that it got mixed together with the Minchas Nadava? And therefore we see that because it has oil on it, you can't bring it up, and therefore we see Reish Lakish is wrong. Says the Gemara, lo, Minchas Parim v'ayolim v'minchas pasim. It's not talking about the mincha of the chota, rather it's talking about the mincha you bring of the bulls that got mixed together with the mincha that you bring of the lambs. Now, the mincha of the lambs has 3 lugs of oil, and the mincha of the bulls, I think it has oil, but it's a little bit less. No, yeah, it's only 2. It's only 2 lugs of shemen. So when they get mixed together with each other, so you can't bring it up because once again, the one that's supposed to have a thinner texture is a thicker texture is going to get thinner. The one that's supposed to have a very thick texture because it's a smaller ratio is going to have a larger texture, and that we know if you have too much oil in an offering, that's going to be invalid. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? That's what we're talking about. That's exclusively taught in that brisa. Minchas parim v'ayalim, but minchas kvasim. The charash is Arab bebalo yakrib. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yakrib. So what do you mean? You can't tell me at the beginning of the brisa talking about that when it's the explicit end of the brisa. Obviously, if that's the end of the brisa, then the beginning of the brisa is not talking about that. Says the Gemara, no. It's just the end of the brisa, just interpreting what happened in the beginning of the brisa. It's not a whole separate case. Rather, it's just being mefarish. It's just interpreting what that brisa is talking about. Okay.